Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, today is a special day for my family and many families like mine. Today is Loving Day. We celebrate the unanimous ruling by the Supreme Court in the case of Loving v. Virginia. 50 years ago today, the Supreme Court ruled that laws that ban interracial marriage unconstitutional. So I want to tell you about the couple that risked their lives to challenge these laws. Yesterday in the Register-Guard, there was a great op-ed. I commend it all to you. There's also a fantastic movie that recently came out about the Lovings. So here's part of the op-ed yesterday from the Register-Guard. Mildred Jeter and Richard Loving were an interracial couple. She was African American and Native American, and he was of Irish and English descent. They grew up as a family and friends in a small rural town of Central Point, Virginia, and the community was integrated. They fell in love and wanted to get married, but they were unable to do so because it was against the law in Virginia. In the nearby District of Columbia, there was no law against their marriage, so they traveled there and were married on June 21st, 1958. Their family eventually grew to include 3 children. So the newlyweds returned home to their hometown in Virginia. A few weeks later, acting on a warrant, their home was raided in the early morning hours by the sheriff and 2 deputies. The Lovings were arrested in their bedroom and jailed for violations of Virginia's anti-miscegenation law. Their 1-year prison sentence was suspended only on the condition that they plead guilty and leave the state. Forced into exile, they returned to Washington, D.C., but were dismayed by city life and longed for their home and their family in rural Virginia. In 1963, Mildred requested the help of the ACLU to challenge their arrests and their convictions and to bring a suit against the Commonwealth of Virginia. On June 12th, 50 years ago today, the Supreme Court handed down its unanimous ruling that Virginia, or any other state, may not discriminate on the basis of race in granting marriage licenses. At the time, there were 16 states that outlawed interracial marriage. In Oregon, the state banned interracial marriage in 1866, and the law was not repealed until 1951. In 2015, the Loving case was cited as precedent in the landmark Obergefell v. Hodges decision legalizing same-sex marriage. Now, colleagues, you know me, you know that I would most likely be interested in these cases because of the impact on our laws, and I am. But there's another reason, colleagues, that we celebrate Loving Day in my house. Most of you know my husband, Paul, and most of you know he's African American, but I don't know how many of you know his last name is Loving. Happy Loving Day.